a group of Richmonders numbering anywhere from 200 to 300 people, I think, have been working on figuring out how to do an occupation like Occupation Wall Street here in Richmond. And I have two guests today, and I'm going to get them to introduce themselves. They are members of the folks who are down there, and we hope to get them to tell us a little bit about how it's come together and where things are now and what you are looking forward to. So Megan, go ahead and start with you. Introduce.
Thanks for having me here today. My name's Megan Neal, and I'm one of the 99%, and we're in day 3 now.
Hello, my name is Sir Williams, and I'm also one of the 99% and proud to be here. Thank you for having me.
You bet, you bet. All right, well, you know, I can give you a little bit of perspective on Occupy Wall Street because I was there on Saturday, and I think that there have been some other folks who have traveled from Richmond to see it, and it is, you know, it's a big deal, it's a big thing. Zuccotti Park is an interesting visual, New York being what it is, and also that particular site being in the shadow of the two towers, the Twin Towers site, and the memorial, the 9/11 memorial being built as this is all going on. There's a lot of tourists down there as well, so you kind of have a park that probably had a strong presence of homeless people before this began, that now has an encampment wrapped around it, and then now has also a lot of political organizations wrapped around that, and then you have tourists wrapped around that. So the dynamic between that base camp and then the forays out to other sites like Washington Square Park, where the student demonstration took place on Saturday, and the arrests of those who sought to close their accounts at the Citibank branch took place. All of this is, you know, it's pretty palpable in New York, you know, at the same time that, you know, people are still doing everything else that they do. So it's an interesting thing to see, and I think part of the curiosity is how does this manifest itself in different cities, because there's always going to be a unique dynamic depending on what the conditions are in those cities. So could you guys talk a little bit about Occupy Richmond?
Well, I can speak on Kanawha, on our current location, and the dynamics that we have in that park right now. So there's a lot of different voices coming together, and this first kind of rose up out of the university body, and also the local food community and a couple other different places. But now, as we have it as the core occupiers, and by that I mean the people that are spending the night in the park, or on the sidewalk, I should say, with some legal stipulations in place there. But the people that have come together and that are at Kanawha they're students, but there's different generations, and there's a lot of different neighborhoods represented. But out of the occupiers, we have ourselves as a movement, and then we have the residents who are already in Kanawha. And these are people that formerly lived in Monroe Park, and they were forcibly evacuated from Monroe Park by the city police, and now live in Kanawha. And so we've had mixed receptions. Some people really are excited that we're there, and some people are angry that we're there because they feel we would be drawing that we would be calling attention to their presence in the park. And and the whole thing doesn't reflect so well on the city's police department, as they are kind of enforcing different rules, or they have a don't ask, don't tell policy, and then now with our movement, it's a tricky situation.
Yeah. Now, how many people are spending the night at this point? How many people are actually occupying, you know, the public space?
Go ahead, sir.
It varies from night to night, because we have some students who also are occupying with us, and some of them have to return home at night, you know, in order to go to class the next day. But usually, we have like 50.
I'd say that.
Yeah, we have 50, and some of them are dispersed in different areas, in Kanawha Plaza.
Right.
And it's just, it's really inspiring to see people come together
Right.
for such a pure cause, and people are making sacrifices daily. Like, you know, just making, we have students, we have working people who are really just sticking to their guns and really believing in this thing that is called democracy, and they're willing to stand up for it and be vanguards for it. So, I mean, it's wonderful.
Right.
And we have a nice presence in this park, nice presence.
Now, how one of the questions would be for Richmond. Is there a program? Is, you know, in Occupy Wall Street, they've got a website, and they published a statement, which they say is a proposal, not anything that's decided. And there's sort of two characteristics to it. One, they describe themselves as a leaderless coming together, and then the other, on the other part, there is, you know, this several point plan where they have proposed the changes that they would like to see, and have a program that they have sort of put out there for people to respond to. So I was wondering, is Occupy Richmond doing something similar? Do you have a program?
Well, the first thing I'd like to address on that is the largest critique and the largest strength I feel of the movement, in that I've often heard described as leaderless. And really, it's not leaderless at all. It's a horizontal leadership. It's just such a different model that people don't even recognize it as leadership. But it's a general consensus-based decision-making organism. And what that means is, at the heart of the process are these two general assemblies that we have every day. And so people get to sit and they get to look each other in the eye and learn how to listen again. And there are hand signals used, and it's completely respectful from the beginning, in an ideal General Assembly. And we have a facilitator and a scribe. There are set people to keep stack, which is the queue, the line of speakers who will speak on any given proposal. And so we do have a horizontal leadership in place. And as far as the agenda goes, what I've seen come out of Wall Street, I feel is very impressive, because the problem itself is so complex and so layered and so saturated in every level of our society, that for people to be able to come together and in what started out as 44 people in a park to produce a solution to. I had a gentleman stop me on the street yesterday and ask me about the occupation, and he said, well, what are you going to do? You can't abolish capitalism. And I mean, what to do with the problem at hand? That really is the real work to be done. And as we are on day 3, we don't have a document yet like Wall Street, but we do have some ideas about what we'd like to see happen. About we have a political action committee, and out of that working group, we hope to manifest some really exciting different demonstrations, or and that's the real work to be done, and that's where we are at the beginning of that.
Right. Are you hoping to draw attention to issues that impact, you know, economic issues, or well, basically economic or human rights issues, civil rights issues that are facing Richmond specifically, or, you know, are you using that as a microcosm to connect with struggles outside of Richmond? What are you seeing?
Well, actually, all of those issues are interrelated. You know, human rights, civil rights, you know, economics, and because it's called Occupy Richmond, it's definitely for the people of Richmond, all inclusive with the other Occupy movements that are around the country. So as we are hoping to progressively move forward for the people of Richmond, we are also, you know, allied with those other movements, because we have one common goal:
Right.
to preserve the integrity of the idea of democracy, and to not develop this elite, exclusive, classist attitude where we are the haves and those are the have-nots. We have the worth and they don't.
Right.
So hopefully it will, you know, galvanize the people of Richmond and bring more people into the understanding that this occupation is not. We're not saying that, you know, we disagree with, you know, everything that's going on in America and we're trying to leave, and this foolishness that everybody has, you know, cooked up. It's simply to bring about an awakening of an understanding of what we are to expect from our government. And we just hope that this stand that we're taking, you know, communicates that.
Right, right. I mean, and that's the value of demonstrations, right? Is that you make an issue visible, you make a representation either in the numbers of bodies or the ability to articulate or highlight what the problems are. And an occupation, we often talk about how in Richmond, if you got 35 people at a demonstration, you've got something. We may be wearing that one out. So it was very encouraging to see, a few hundred people gathering for these general assemblies. And I have to tell you that was one of the things that I did find the most compelling about what's happening is the way in which the organizing and, as you call it, the horizontal leadership component is developing. It's really kind of a hearkening back. And there are many other communities around the world that do use a consensus-based decision-making process for determining which way their society is going to go, or for making day-to-day decisions. So it is very compelling to sort of watch it in action. It could be that ends up being a certain kind of legacy, because one of the issues also that we have addressed in terms of the Sacred Ground Project is often just simple transparency of government process. So much of it happens behind interesting doors, sometimes much closer to us than we realize, and we might not realize that that if we just tapped on that door right there, we'd find out that a decision you thought was being democratically addressed was actually pre-decided. So I one of the other, let me take a moment and let people know that they are listening to The Defenders Live here on WRIR. It's 97.3 LPFM. It's Richmond's radio for the rest of us. You can listen live at WRIR.org, and you can, of course, tune in via radio at 97.3 FM. My guests today are Megan Neal and
Sir Williams.
Sir Williams,
Yes.
And they are members of the folks who are occupying Richmond down at Kanawha Plaza, and the duration of that is ongoing, right?
Yet to be determined.
To be determined, and
As long as necessary.
there you go. Yeah.
I also like to add, Anna, the previous question we were dealing with, it's only natural for these occupation movements to occur because the way our government is structured, we are called the United States. So all the decisions that are made upon Capitol Hill, all the decisions that are made on Capitol Hill affects every individual city-state within our supposed United States. So it's only a natural reaction to the mismanagement and the misdirection of democracy back in Washington. So these movements should naturally pop up because it's not just a Richmond problem, or it's not just a Roanoke problem. It's a problem that stems from the head and it's affecting the whole body.
Right, and I think that's been part of the curiosity is on Saturday, which was the International Day of occupation. Basically, the occupations were happening all over the world, and some with varying degrees of volatility and presence. And again, it's one of the reasons why I was asking, was there something specific, that Richmond's occupation is hoping, or can demonstrate that's maybe unique from another place. One of them may be this idea of the horizontal leadership process and that consensus-based decision-making as an example, of a different kind of leadership and a different way of guiding society.
Well, I think the horizontal leadership, it's very new to me and a lot of the members of the occupation, and we really have, I can only speak for myself, and I meant to give that disclaimer in the beginning, I'm sorry, I'm just one individual of the 99%.
Right.
I don't speak to represent the movement, I speak to as one individual among many in the horizontally led process.
Exactly.
But yeah, with general consensus, the hand signals and the General Assembly and the meetings, that's a process that harkens back to the 60s in this country, and I possibly earlier than that, and I have learned everything about that from the other occupation movements. But as far as something specific to Richmond that we are unique to the occupation movement for, I think would be I don't know, just I hate to beat the dead horse, but this was the capital of the Confederacy, and we have a very historically divided city and neighborhoods even, and block by block. And I don't think that that was ever any accident. And this, short of losing my puppy earlier this year, has been like the one thing that has brought people out of their doors and connected people, and like been like my one real bridge to connect with people. And it's like these issues are so huge that they surpass anything that's any artificial division that the 1%, if you will, has imposed on the people.
Right. Well, you know, you put your finger on one of the key things, of course, about Richmond in terms of it being described as the former capital of the Confederacy. But it's in part because it leads you very quickly to what the power structure is here in Richmond and in Virginia. And
Yes.
if you're going to talk about the 1% versus the 99% in Virginia, we are often talking about people who established their membership in the 1% in those, you know, in the earliest days of Virginia, you know, starting with the land grants that they got from, you know, England when they first got here,
Mhm.
and to what degree that has trickled down through either those families, you know, who may still maintain that power and the, you know, those resources, to those who made their money off of the slave trade or off of, you know, the economies that were, you know, sustained by the slave trade through the Civil War. And then after that, of course, you're talking about not only prison industrial complex development and convict labor, you are talking about the history of labor in this country, the working man versus, you know, those who own, you know, what you work for. And, you know, there's a lot of that is very clearly and very blatantly represented by the history of Richmond. And so I think it offers that certainly as one of our unique role in those dynamics. And so, you know, I know that there had been some discussion at one point about the occupation being based on Monument Avenue.
Oh yes.
You know, and so I think even having had that conversation, if you'd ultimately picked Kanawha Plaza because it's in the financial district, even having had the conversation about the possibility of occupying Monument Avenue, you know, is a testament to the fact that this is something that really does permeate the sensibility of what the power structure here is.
How do you feel about Monument? I can speak on Monument.
Yeah, well, I mean, Monument Avenue would have been a wonderful place to occupy, because at the same time, the occupation movement is presenting two ideals. That one, we can cohere as people, because all types of people have come together. We're working together, right? The people. And speaking to what you said, Ann, about this being the former, you know, I guess you would say head of the Confederacy, or former,
Literally,
right?
the capital.
Literally the capital of the Confederacy.
Yes.
This Occupy movement has destroyed the old ghosts of Confederate thinking, with Caucasian people working with African American people and Asian people working with Latino people. We have transcended all of those old demons that used to propel the popular mind state of this, you know, particular city at one point in its history. And it's just an affront to all of the foolishness that people will I guess imply, or they can't work together. One thing that propelled me is that, and I'm not saying that quoting, but someone was saying that the mayor was like, oh, they won't last tonight. And I'm saying, like, this is a democracy we live in. We have the right to gather, to express our voice, and for an elected official to speak against a tenant in a document that that supports his whole administration. It's like, wow, he really believes that?
Right.
So I mean, Monument would have been a wonderful stage, because it would have really sent a message that we've transcended all of those old demons, and we are galvanizing as a people, the people, to get a message across.
Right. That's really that's good to hear, because I think sometimes we think, you know, I think everybody's working from a lot of different places to figure out how to address racism, and you know, for a group of multi-generational, multi-perspective people and multiracial people to come together and occupy the financial district, but we're talking about economics, you're talking about culture, you're talking about history, you're talking about what is our city going to be, and you all, the younger of you anyway, represent those who are going to be taking over, and so I think that there's something tremendously encouraging about the way that you all are going about this. So I commend you two for and I thank you two for being here today to share your individual perspectives about what is collectively going on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're not done with Monument.
Yeah.
Right.
We can look for a march or two in
Right.
the future.
Occupy Richmond just simply means, hey, we're in Richmond. We're liable to be all over the place because we have to spread the message. And one good thing about the Occupy movement is that I've learned so much more about democracy.
Me too.
It allows this horizontal leadership in a really playful way, and I don't want to use the word force like it's evil, but it forces us to deal with the fact that we are in an all-inclusive occupational movement. Mm-hmm. So we have to respect the opinions, we have to respect the perspectives of other people and learn how to tolerate them, and if you will, weave them together or cohere them with what our beliefs may be, and that's not an easy process for a human.
Anarchists,
Right.
Elitists,
It's not
specific individuals,
right.
People running for office. It's all over the place. I mean, young people, older people, artists.
Right.
Yeah, I could go on.
Yeah, right.
But just the lessons
Well,
of communication.
No, and it's always important to understand the reality of your dynamics in order to be able to move forward constructively. And so so that's again, all of that is contributing to a very interesting development right here in Richmond. So it's very encouraging. One of the things I'd like to ask before we jump off, because we've got about 2 minutes left now, is if people want to learn more and try to get a better understanding, and they can obviously join you down there, and certainly because you have those 2 general assemblies each day.
Yes.
And that's good. And what times are those, roughly?
Roughly, one is held in the morning hours,
Uh-huh.
and one is held in the evening. Round about just a little 11 in the morning, sometimes at night 8 o'clock.
No, 7.
Oh, 7,
right?
7,
Okay.
7,
11 and
7.
7.
11 and
Recently
7.
established 11
Right.
o'clock and 7.
7.
Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
excuse
So
me,
11 and 7 o'clock, you
11
can
and
go
7.
down to the
Right,
Canal
right.
Plaza and participate in those general assemblies. And otherwise, is there any kind of web presence? Is there a Facebook or anything like that, or a phone number?
Social media has really propelled this thing. We are participating in social activity in the information age is really it's really something new.
Yeah.
But yes,
Facebook.
www.occupyrichmondva.org is the domain, and then we also have a Facebook presence, and you can find us on there. occupytogether.org. .com. There's an Occupy Together website that's really powerful, that unites all the voices around the nation, and from there you can go
So occupyrichmondva.org.
That's
and
the
then
primary.
Because that's here, and then the other is Occupy Together.
Occupy Together.
Okay, and that's something that
that's something that
connects you
unifies the
to
nation. And then we have a big
everyone else.
Facebook presence too, and you
Good.
can find that.
Okay, terrific.
Oh, and Twitter.
Aha, and Twitter. Yeah.
Can't forget Twitter.
All right. Well, Sir William and Megan Neal, I want to thank you again for joining us here on Defenders Live, and I look forward to, maybe giving people some updates as things move along, and I hope that you will keep us in touch.
Well,
Yes, thank you again for having us.
thank you, Anna.
Yeah. All right, everyone, I want to let you know that there is an interesting film being screened tomorrow night after the Birdhouse Market at William Byrd Community House called The Greenhorns. You can learn more about that at thegreenhorns.net, and that's about the challenges, realities, and joys of choosing to be a farmer and work in agriculture as a way of life in this day and age. There's a lot more going on. Check Defenders Live blogspot.com, defendersliveradio.blogspot.com, and defendersfje.blogspot.com for more. And I look forward to talking to you next week, where we will continue the conversation about what makes Richmond tick and our fight for social justice every day, human rights every day. Thank you, and remember that kindness does matter.